Welcome to the Legacy Through Land podcast, where we're dedicated to empowering you on your journey to land ownership and management. I'm Tyler Markham, your host, and each week we'll dive deep into the world of land investing, management strategies, and the transformative experiences tied to owning your very own piece of dream dirt. With our expert guests, inspiring stories, and actionable advice, we're committed to helping you become a better land manager, hone your investing skills, and start building your family's legacy through land. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. We hope you'll enjoy. Welcome back to the Legacy Through Land podcast. I don't even know what episode it is. I'm giving up. It's somewhere in the 30s, I think. But today, we've got my good friend, Mr. David Gilane, on from Deer and Deer Hunting. And I'm telling you, obviously, Deer and Deer Hunting is like the epitome of the biggest brands in the hunting space. And this story about how he landed there and kind of his career getting to there is going to be impactful. So I will save that for just a bit, but an update from me over here at Legacy Acres Land Company. Man, I wish you guys could see, and I'm glad you can't, but below my camera angle here is full of camo clothes on the floor and a deer head and hard drives and a drone and complete chaos because I have been at it at all fronts. Hunting, we've got land we're listing, we've got listings that I'm getting up. I've been everywhere looking at new properties. We're just super busy trying to wrap up the year. And I've also been trying my best to wrap a tag on some bone in Illinois and also here in Ohio. I've been really close in Ohio. My closest hunt was November 30th, but I am only a bow guy, and that has really hurt me this year. I've had plenty of deer in decent range. I could have filled my Illinois tag twice on really good deer, and I don't know. I might change that next year. I might become a gun guy again. I have just always loved the challenge of bow hunting, but it's tough to not look at how much time I'm spending being gone from my family and how much money I'm spending on tags and Airbnbs and fuel and all the stuff to take a stick and string gun hunting in Illinois. It's quite the chaos. But anyways, here nor there. Trying to end the year strong. Here it is, December 9th, as of the time of this recording. And I honestly am excited for a little bit of a break. I am. We have worked really hard. The team has worked really hard. We've sold more properties than we did last year. So we're growing. Although I think it's been a little bit slower of a year just because of interest rates, we're about to see the market explode. And I am telling you now, do not wait until spring to get serious about buying some recreational land if you are looking. Do not wait, because when the interest rates drop and the market opens back up, it's going to be too late for you to get in the game. And I'm just saying that from the standpoint that it's going to be competitive. It's going to be very competitive. And you don't want that. I promise you. You want to buy now. You want to find something now, buy now, and then refinance it when the rates are lower. That's what you want to do. So enough of that. And we've got a ton of great properties coming. Honestly, we've got a lot of stuff coming up. So we've been a little quieter about some of our stuff than normal. And it hasn't even been on purpose, but we've been working on several transactions that we're closing to buy. And all of that has started to happen. So we've got a piece in Lawrence County that's 100 acres with a beautiful home and a barn and has incredible genetic history. That one's coming up. I just listed 5 acres in Pike County. That would be a great house build. I don't even know. We've got 22 acres in Gallia we're buying. We've got another 88 in Gallia. We're kind of everywhere. We're buying some stuff though. So if you are not on the VIP buyers list over at Legacy Acres Land Company, you better be on there if you want to see my stuff first. But enough of what's going on with us. If you've got questions or things that I could cover on the podcast, yell at me. I'd love to. If there's things that you want me to hear or things that you're bored of in this podcast, tell me those as well. I am fumbling my way through the success of this, so I would love any feedback you can give me. So I'm going to shut up now. We're jumping right into David Gilane, DDH. Let's go. All right. I tell you guys every week, and I mean it, if I'm not excited about a guest, they probably won't be on here. So I'm real excited about my friend David Gilane. And if you intimately follow me and watch our socials, his pretty face was on this really cool hunting video about coming and hanging with the guys at Legacy over in Ohio and his real close attempt at a buck. And that was on my home Jackson farm. So if that rings a bell, great. awesome. If it doesn't, everybody is going to get to learn who in the world is David Gilane, one of the big shot dudes at DDH, Deer and Deer Hunting. Thank you for being on here.
Thanks for having me, Tyler. I'm glad that you pronounced my name right. A lot of people don't, the last name there. I get Gilane or Gilane a lot, so thank you.
I had to practice it. I did spend some time in the mirror, but no, I think one of our mutual friends has said it enough that I was just like, yeah, that makes sense. That's what his name is. I'm not going to mispronounce it. It's Gilane, not Gilane. But
that's right.
David, I told him before we kind of came online, everybody, I don't need a talk track for David and I. We met through business acquaintances. We met through hunting and all that. But I don't even know how we got started on this, but I was asking him what's your story? What's your deal? Let's insert Step Brothers. What's this guy's deal? And this guy's deal is really, really, really interesting. And I was immediately I left the call. And I think if you were to ask my assistant, Hannah, what did he say about David? I was like, this dude, will bet on himself. This guy's a mover and shaker. So I'm shutting up immediately.
In my opinion, to quote Step Brothers again, I think the sentiment afterwards was, did we just become best friends?
100%.
So, yeah.
So we are collectively doing Karate in the Garage on this podcast today.
Yeah.
And we're smashing some pumpkins. Great 90s band
Building
as well.
bunk beds.
Yes, building bunk beds. You probably be the bottom bunk guy. I'm more of the smasher,
Thanks.
Yeah, it just, it's like Talladega Nights. If I let you win, how could I win? So it's just less climactic if you're the one getting smashed. Anyways, see, guys, if you're on here, thank you already. If you're listening to this on the way to work, you are welcome. We're about to lighten the mood before that big meeting you have. So real talk, rein this in, David. One of the things that I always ask every guest, and for you that listen to my podcast, thank you, by the way, thank you. Send a review or subscribe, comment, whatever. Share it with your friends. Share it with your mom. That would mean a lot to me. I think your mom might like this podcast if she likes dudes talking about hunting and dirt. But I always ask my guests, what's your story? And I think if you listen to my podcast, I resonate a ton with the try, fail, adjust, just the journey that leads us to who are the people in business that we know. And in David's world, in the outdoor industry and the business that we met through being in the outdoors, I don't know how often you get the chance to tell the story of how do you get to where you're at? But that's what I want to do today. I want our listeners to get to hear, how does someone land at being one of the dudes that makes a lot of stuff happen at DDH, and we will call that DDH for the rest of this podcast, which means Deer and Deer Hunting and all things Deer and Deer Hunting, parts of the magazine, parts of the TV, media company, all the stuff that we'll get to unpack. How in the world do we get to that? Who is David?
All right. Well, first off, prior to this starting, you asked me for the long version. So get some water. Right. There you go.
I'm already taking a drink.
Be ready for it. So I don't tell the story a lot. Couple deer camp, late night fire stuff, but because it's usually pretty long-winded, and I'm at that stage where, I'm 36 years old. I just don't really feel my story's all that relevant anymore, but I appreciate you thinking it is. So
I know it is. So let's do it. Everybody get around the proverbial fire, or whatever the cool word is. Just lean in.
Yep. We are at deer camp. So as you know, I did not grow up hunting. So me being in this industry's, I don't want to say an anomaly, right? But I'm a little bit different sometimes. And guys, I always get the same reaction. They're like, really? You did what as a kid? But I grew up in Southern California. I always like to joke that I grew up dodging bullets, not shooting them, which is almost true at a couple different moments. But so I grew up in Southern California. I grew up wanting to be Steven Spielberg, wanting to watch every single movie in existence. When my very first gift as a child was the sequel to Casper on VHS, and I will always remember that. I fell in love with just film as a young kid living out in Southern California. I kind of saw the path that I was going to go on with that. And in school, I was in theater. So I did a lot of musical theater. I was on stage. I was singing and dancing. I was wearing makeup. There are pictures to prove it. and I was a set designer. So that's where a lot of the skills translate into what I do now a little bit in building sets and when it comes to like our podcast and stuff and all of that. So, but where things got a little rough and where my life really took a turn was my junior year in high school. So my dad being, we all like to say we're not like our parents. We are.
Yeah.
Right? We all eventually realize we're more like our dad or we're more like our mom than we like to admit. I'm at that point now to where I'm proud to admit it. Like, my dad took chances in life. And he took a big chance my junior year. This was 2007, and he foresaw a boom. He foresaw out in the desert in California, a bunch of suburbs were going up. And so he decided, you know what, we're going to buy a big old house out there. He's finally making really good money at his job, get everything that I've ever wanted and provide for my family exactly how I've always dreamed of. And at the same time, open up a couple of pizza franchises. I was very hesitant to do that because it was 50 miles away from my high school. So I fought it pretty hard, but eventually I gave in, I moved, and I switched high schools for 1 week. I say 1 week because after a week at the new high school, I said, this isn't happening. And I ditched midday, got in my car, drove 50 miles to the district that I did go to. Asked them, what do I need to do to get back into this school? And they said, well, you need an inter-district transfer. And in order to do that, you need a parent to sign off on it. Okay. I knew my dad wasn't gonna. So then I drove another 30 minutes back to my mom's job, knocked on the door. She's freaking out. What are you doing? Why aren't you in school? I'm like, well, because I'm trying to make that happen actually right now, Mom. So if you can help me with that. Get her to sign off on the district transfer. And by sixth period that day, I'm back in my school, make a deal with my parents that I will get another part-time job to pay for my gas just to go back and forth every day on the 10 freeway in Southern California, which if you know anything about that, I had to wake up 2 hours early just to get to school every single morning.
What year is in your what year in school are you at this point?
Junior.
Okay. Man, dude, we're going right in. I'm already in. I'm at the edge of my seat. Let's go.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing the majority of my junior year. About halfway through, things get worse. Because as you know, big old market crash happens, right, in 2008.
Yep.
And when that happens, this is actually the summer. I think it would have to be the summer, if I recall, in between my junior and my senior year. Big market crash happens. I'm a punk kid. I'm 17 years old. I don't understand it. And one day I'm working at my dad's pizza place. He calls. He's stressed out. He thinks he's going to lose everything. Eventually he does. And I mouth off to him. And that was obviously a mistake. But well, what happened next was my dad got in his car. He hung up immediately after I mouthed off. He got in his car. He came down to the restaurant, and without saying a word, he just ran in there. He grabbed me by the shoulders. He threw me into a big, case of soda, two liters up against the wall. And we just started fighting, like physically fighting. And from that day on, I moved out of the house. And my mom was crying, all that. But the very first place that I moved was a garage that belonged to a high school friend's mom, his mom's house. And she was just like, yeah, I guess you could live in the garage. So I started living in an uninsulated garage for this summer in between my junior and senior year. And into my senior year, I knew that I had to elevate from that garage because it was cold at times and just not nice,
And probably hot at times.
And hot at times, yes, absolutely. But we had a TV, we had electricity, and I had a futon, so I was comfortable enough. So I partnered up with an alumni of the theater program and of the high school he was seeking an apartment for himself. And so we got an apartment in Upland, California. It was a 3-bedroom apartment, and we split the rent, which was $1,300. And in order for me to do that and still go to high school, I had to go get a full-time job, and that was McDonald's. So I had a full-time job, they hired me right as a supervisor because of my experience at my parents' restaurant. And sadly, at this same time, simultaneously, my parents are losing everything. They're losing their house. They're losing their car. They're losing the restaurants. Everything stopped. And so
because of the crash in '08.
Because of the crash, yeah.
Okay.
So it was a very, very, rough time for everybody. And I chose to make it rougher on myself because of, youthful pride and ignorance.
Yep.
But I am glad that I did, because it did what it made me who I am. So my schedule my senior year looked like this. I woke up at 3 a.m. I walked across the street to start a shift at McDonald's at 4 a.m. I worked from 4 a.m. to noon at McDonald's. And then, interjection, my high school told me at this point, because I was working full time, that I couldn't no longer go to high school, and I wasn't eligible for a high school diploma. I'd have to homeschool myself, or not homeschool myself, but I'd have to just get a GED.
Yep.
I told them no. I told them it's not an option for me. And I had the director of our theater program in my back pocket, and he pulled a lot of weight there, because we had a national theater program. Like, it made national news multiple times. It was a big program. He brought a lot of money. So he helped me make a deal with the principal to where I could homeschool myself my senior year and get my high school diploma. So I made it happen. So going back to the story of my schedule, after McDonald's, my shifts would end at noon. Then I would go to the bus. I would go to the homeschooling location, pick up my packet, jump back up on the bus, come all the way back to McDonald's. And then from there was no bus to my high school. It was a 3-mile walk. So then I'd walk 3 miles down to my high school, go straight to the theater. I would teach myself my packet, which they were not hard. It's kind of a joke. And then I would wait until school got out, because, again, I was unwilling to not do the theater program anymore. So after school got out, I did rehearsal. And rehearsal would often go to like 5, 6 o'clock sometimes. And then after that, I would stay, because I was a set designer. So I'd build the set. I would paint the set. Sometimes it would go overnight, and I would just not even wake up. I would maybe get an hour of sleep in the theater, walk back up to my job at McDonald's at 4 a.m. Or I'd find a way to get back home by like 10, 11 o'clock, do it all over again. So that was my entire senior year. I ended up graduating early, which was bittersweet, because I walked onto the field, got my diploma from my high school director, big mentor in my life. And after that, everybody was invited to parties and everybody was having fun. Me, I walked off the field, I walked back up to my apartment, and I woke up at 3 a.m. So, it was bittersweet. I very, very, looking back, in the moment I was really sad. Looking back, I'm very proud. And so that's the high school phase of my life, which basically set the tone, right? So after that, didn't know what to do with my life. Didn't really have any guidance. Not like the guidance counselors were like, oh, hey, because of this, you're a great, applicant for Stanford.
I have all the resources for your exact situation, sir.
Exactly. So what I did was I Googled, because at this point in my life, I'm like, you know what? I don't really talk to my dad anymore. And I don't really have any friends anymore. And I don't want to be that guy who just stays at the theater program for years and years after he graduates, because it's kind of creepy. Unless it's a paid job, which I didn't have. So I Googled what the best economy in the United States was at the time. This would have been 2009, the end of 2009. And I figured out that it was Omaha, Council Bluffs, so that's what popped up in Google. And so I decided to move to Omaha, Council Bluffs on my own with zero job. I had about $300 to my name. I told you this. I found a roommate and a car off of Craigslist. The car was $300.
Hold on. Is the roommate the current was the roommate the current car owner as well? That'd be an interesting tie.
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm thinking of due date with those dudes driving across the country together. So, all right, the roommate, not the previous car owner. Okay.
Right. No. So I found the roommate
Craigslist
first.
Ads.
Two different ads.
I have a car and I'm looking for a roommate.
in the proper sections of advertising. Yes. So
And
I
we
found
should
the
give you a
roommate
little
first.
credit here. Hold on. We got to give you some credit, guys. If you listen to this now, like Craigslist was a lot less scammy back then. Okay. Let's give him a little, Craigslist was,
Is Craigslist still a thing?
I mean, if you were looking for a car and a roommate on Craigslist now, I'd have more questions, but carry on. Oh, wait.
Okay.
Seems legit. That checks.
Yeah. I found a roommate. Name was Joe. Actually a cool dude. Just the guy that like had a little apartment in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Just had an extra room and he just wanted to fill it. So I explained to my situation what it was, and he's like, "Yeah, that sounds good. As long as you get a job as soon as you get here, it's cool." All right, I got it in. So I got in to Council Bluffs. And when I was there, then I found the ad for the car. I had no front fender. You could see everything. It was pretty hilarious, but it worked. It got me a job at Blockbuster Video because naturally that's what I navigated
How
to.
did you get there? How did you, and you're saying Council Bluffs, Iowa. Now, this is forgive my lack of geography. Is Omaha and Council Bluffs right beside each other, but two states? I obviously know Omaha's Nebraska, but
they're bordering cities.
Okay.
They're right on the Mississippi or Missouri.
Everybody
Missouri.
laugh. It's fine.
Yeah.
I haven't been there yet. Okay. So
Hey, it's a great place. I love it.
well, I mean, you're already, so how do you buy this car in California and drive it to Iowa?
No, okay, I got to admit, I had a little bit of help there. Mom stepped in, right?
Yeah,
So-
but that's still like, I was just like, did you like hitchhike here? Like what's happening?
No, mom bought me a plane ticket, so that was the only plane ticket I had, and then I just
She shipped her son off, one-way ticket.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, my mom was heartbroken with all this, as you can imagine. Like, not only am I not talking to my dad, we got in a physical fight. Her baby boy is literally out there living on his own while in high school. Like, I can't imagine. I mean, I kind of can because I'm a dad now, right? But like, she's a mom. She's gonna help however she can. So I get there, I get situated. The very next day that I'm there, I go to the local community college, Iowa Western Community College, and I tell them that I'm a resident. I lie so that I can get resident tuition. But I knew I had to do something legit. I knew I had to get into school. So I did that. I got a job at Blockbuster Video. The manager at the time is now my...
To Blockbuster. I mean, I can still smell the place.
Dude, 100%. I mean, see that right there? It's kind of blown out. But that's my own self-made Blockbuster Video store right there. Yeah. The manager at the time, he's still my best friend to this day. He was the best man at my wedding. He still lives in Nebraska. I love him to death. He's also getting into property, by the way.
Let's go. I'm not into property, but it sounds cool. But go ahead.
Yeah. There's a little bit of money to be made there. And then from there, I'll just kind of go over my college stuff a little bit. I find a girl at the community college. I chase her to the University of Iowa. I get denied by Iowa. I always get denied. I just do. And then I refuse being denied. That's the other part of the process. And then I drive all the way to the University of Iowa to the dean's office, tell him, hey, here's the letter where you said that I am not accepted and you apologize, but I'd like you to reverse this. And he's just like, dude just started laughing. He's like, all right, come on in. I was in school the next day. So
that's awesome.
That's what I do. I don't like no.
So you're an Iowa Hawkeye.
I'm a Hawkeye. I almost wore that on purpose, knowing that.
Care. I mean,
Well, I know you don't, because they're not going to compete.
I was going to say. I mean,
Ohio
have they
State,
scored more than 21 points like in the last decade? I don't even know.
In the last decade, yes, they made it to the Rose Bowl like 4 or 5 years ago. So college wise, the most important thing I got to say about my college career is that I was mediocre because I went into it for the bad reasons, right? I just followed a girl.
Well, I mean, I didn't even go, so you already have clout. So go ahead. I didn't even
right.
Smart enough.
Well, no, I mean, I think you've proven that you don't always have to go. So, and what I'm about to say proves that too, right? So what I recognized in college is that you're just a void, filling a void in a seat for the professors. I even had professors admit this to me. They said, we just have a quota. These kids are voids. They don't actually want to learn. We're just passing them. And that really didn't sink in until my junior year in college. And I had a class called Korean Cinema and Violence, and it was taught by a Korean what do you call him? Grad student. Seth Kim, phenomenal. Another, if I have to attribute teachers in my life that changed my life, it's Dave Masterson from high school, my theater director, Seth Kim from college. And his class blew me away 100%. And if I had to pay $50,000 for a college education, I would pay it for that one class alone, and it'd be worth it. I get through college because of that man, because of that class. And then I go back into the world of Omaha, Nebraska. That's all I knew at the time. That's where my girlfriend lived at the time. We moved back there together. And I get a job at the Omaha World Herald in the IT department. That eventually, was just a filler job to get me something. Eventually leads me to the news world, Omaha, WWT6 News. I was a backpack journalist for a while, chasing ambulances in the middle of the night. And that obviously gave me a lot of good experience, but not what I ultimately wanted. Then that led me to my other careers in the college education system. So Creighton University doing educational stuff. Now we're at the point where I'm going to tell you how I got here.
So all of that has been a direct transition into
how
setting him up for today.
The original question: how did David Gilane get to DDH?
It's when people ask me the same thing. I'm like, you can't put it together. Like I'll tell you, but it makes no sense. So I'm loving this already.
Life is a domino effect, 100%. Right? I cannot tell the story of how I got here unless I tell you how I got there and there and there and there and there. Right? So, and I don't get to tell it that often anymore.
Yeah. So what was your degree when you graduated from Iowa?
The degree ended up being cinema and comparative literature. So it was very theoretical. I had almost no hands-on like editing or camera work. Iowa is well known for being a theory school. It's the oldest cinema theory school in the nation. Wow. So it's very, very prestigious in its, I read more philosophy than I did anything. So it was very... Go ahead.
The question that myself and all the listeners will judge you on, so answer carefully.
Yeah.
How much?
I already said I wore makeup in high school. Dude.
I mean, yeah, I was going to, sheesh, these are some good reels, man. How much deer hunting did you do while you were a resident in Iowa?
They're going to hate me. I did 0 deer hunting. And you're going to hate me more because the woman that I was dating at the time and who I was engaged to before I came here, her family owned about 120, I want to say. And there were deer all the time. Yep. It just wasn't something that computed to me, right? Like I'd look out the window and I'd see deer. But
bless his ever-loving heart, everybody. Bless his heart. Yeah. Hey, I get it. My one of my best friends is a chiropractor and went to school in Iowa for chiropractic, and apparently they have a really great chiropractic whatever. And he did take some advantage, but I don't think as much as he should have of the in school. What do you call that? In-state residency, or what do they call that? In-state tuition gives you what do they call? Yeah. I don't know what these words. I didn't do college, everybody, clearly, but when you go to college somewhere, you qualify as a resident of that state while you're in college.
And you get a discounted tuition.
Yes. Because of it. Yeah. And you get landowner, or, you get an in-state tag. You don't have to draw. Yeah. So anyway, I just wondered how much you took advantage, but that's fine. That is fine.
What I'll say is after I got my job in the deer hunting world, my biggest regret changed from dating that woman to not taking advantage of the deer hunting.
While dating that woman. Right. So,
yeah. While dating
what was the real reason I was supposed to date her, God? And I missed it. I blew it.
Yep. Yeah. He didn't show me the signs. Right. Or he did, and I didn't listen. So
hey, hindsight's 20/20, right? It's like Dumb and Dumber, man. We just keep our eyes open and we'll catch our break, right? We'll catch our break. All right. So we have taught some things. You said at Creighton, we've graduated from Iowa. Yep. We have degree in theology of theater. Cinema theory. Cinematic theory. Theater and camera stuff and creativity stuffs. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Now where do we go?
All right. So how do I get here? So after college, I'm doing that. I'm working at Creighton. My fiance at the time, we bought a house together. Big mistake, by the way, if you're not married. We bought a house together. She was working as a CPA at Deloitte, so really big job. I was fixing to be a stay-at-home dad on that one. I was. She, like so many relationships occur, or as what happens to so many relationships that go through college or high school, right? You gain a level of complacency. Things get bored, I guess. And if you don't put a lot of effort in the relationships, they fall apart. So that's what happened. Our relationship fell apart. What really happened is she actually cheated on me with a coworker.
That'll cause a relationship to fall apart, typically.
It will. And I always told her, you ever cheat on me, you're never going to see me again, period. I'm not even going to fight it. Like, bye. And I'll get to that. But I got to tell you how she cheated on me, because it's hilarious when you look back on it. So
all the cards are coming out of the vest today.
Oh, yeah. So she had a coworker. I don't even remember the dude's name, nor do I care. But he was like a certified karate instructor, I guess, or Shifu. That's what they call them. If you've ever seen Kung Fu Panda, it's Kung Fu. So he was a Shifu. And and she wanted a hobby, right? So he started teaching her Kung Fu in his basement. And his wife and baby daughter were upstairs. And I was not comfortable with it at first, but I said, in order to gain comfort, bring me over there. Let me just do a lesson and let me see if this is legit. So we did. I felt pretty good about it, because I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to try something with his wife and child right there. I was wrong. And so that happened, and I discovered it. How I found out, so she eventually just told me, hey, I just don't want to be in this relationship. I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, I don't fight for things like that. Especially because I think deep down I knew she wasn't the one anyways. I would obviously fight for my wife if she said that to me today. But I say but a lot. I've noticed that. Anyways.
I haven't noticed it. I just I'm holding back that they were doing wrestling moves all right. It sounds like
they were absolutely. And
our podcast is so big, David. It's a good chance that she will be listening to this.
Oh,
so,
probably.
I mean, just let it
absolutely.
out,
So, how I discovered, eventually she told me that the relationship was over, and I flat out said, okay, that's fine. But if I find out that there was something happening between you and whatever his name was, then you will never hear from me again. And I will just ghost this. And again, we own a house at the time. We share ownership of 2 dogs. Like, there's still a lot of stuff that we want to work out amicably. I find out I'm sitting at my buddy's house. I think it was around Christmas time, like 2017. And I discover, because we had a mutually shared email account, and he accidentally emailed it while he was in Paris with his wife, talking all this like 50 Shades of Grey stuff to my ex at this point in time. And I just showed it to my buddy. I was like, told ya. So the very next day I went to the county. I signed a quitclaim deed for the house. I said, don't need it anymore. She sold it. She took whatever out of it. I don't care. I don't think there was much equity anyways to be had. And I started applying for jobs all over the country. And I applied for jobs at the FBI. I applied for jobs back in Cali. I applied for jobs in Florida. Literally, like the biggest possible job you could think of.
over here. I have developed a set of skills, and Mr. Kung Fu, I will find you.
It was a video job at the FBI. It could have been more. I don't know. I will never know. And then I also applied for a job in central Wisconsin. It was just a video producer job. It had no description other than just kind of basic video producer, stuff. And that one called me. But I have to pause and I have to back up a little bit, because this is where all the stars started to align for me and what really pointed me here. My final Christmas gift from my ex was a set of Bill O'Reilly tickets. He was coming to Omaha this is when he was doing a tour back then. And she originally was going to go with me. My parents are still in California. me and my dad have really started to make up, but not a lot. So I call my dad and I say, hey, Dad, I've got these tickets. Obviously, I'm not going with her. Would you like to fly out to Omaha? I'll bring you out here and we can go see Bill O'Reilly together. He says yes. He does that. Later that night, after the show, he says, hey, Dave, what are you doing the rest of this weekend? It's a Friday. I said, I have no plans whatsoever. I'm a single dude, with a dog.
Let me check my schedule.
Yeah. And he says, well, your grandparents, where they live now up in Kashina, Wisconsin, on Legend Lake, where my dad grew up, is only 9 hours away. How do you feel about jumping in the car and let's just drive out there? I was like, okay. And simultaneously, I'm talking to this company that is only an hour away from that. So I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I can kind of get a better sense for the area. I didn't grow up there, so I remember it a little bit when I was young, but not as much as my dad, obviously. And so we drive all the way through the night. We get to my grandparents, and my dad and I take a walk on the bay that he vacationed on as a child. And we see this house for sale, which is like half built, just completely unfinished. It's like $350K. It overlooks the entire bay that my grandparents live on. Just beautiful scenery. And my dad, my mom and dad are like constantly contemplating leaving California because taxes, because they can't water their grass. You name it, all the reasons why people leave California these days. And he calls my mom and he's like, hey, Vera, just takes a few pictures. What do you think? Like, should we just do this? And to my surprise, my mom right there on the phone was like, yeah, let's do it. So again, me and my dad, very similar, just pull the trigger. And surprisingly, my mom's normally not like that, but she just had it. She had it with California. So they then begin their process of selling their house in Cali, which was like half the size for double the cost, double the value. And then they go and they buy this. And so they're planning a move now to Wisconsin while I'm in the interview process for this job at deer hunting. And how that went is I talked to the HR guy, Scott, at the time. We were a corporation at the time. And he sold it to me on like, hey, dancing around the subject of deer because he doesn't know I'm this city guy from Omaha at the time. And he's like, well, how do you feel about, filming around like dead things and stuff like that? And I'm like, dead things? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, it's deer hunting and, we will see, we kill animals and all that. And I'm like, well, I mean, right now I'm working at Creighton University. I work with the dentistry school quite a bit and we do surgeries on cadaver heads. So as long as it's not gross like that and smelling like formaldehyde, I'm solid.
He's like, it's a little like that, but
a little bit, but I mean, guts and formaldehyde are a different scent for sure. And I'm used to the guts at this point. And, I'm a little excited about it because it's like, look, my dad grew up a Wisconsin deer hunter, and so I've always heard about it. And when I lived in Wisconsin as a very young child, he took my brother and sister deer hunting, but I was the one that was too young. So in my back of my head, I'm like, that would just be cool to kind of get into that. I've never even thought about it. And so, the interview process doesn't move too fast because they're a little hesitant because I'm 9 hours away. And so I decide one day to ask my boss at Creighton for Friday off so that I can go help my parents move. The ulterior motive being that I want to go for a face-to-face interview with these guys at Deer Hunting.
Yep.
She doesn't know that. She denies me the Friday off. And this is a boss that has never denied me anything. But I think there was some sort of conference there that I was supposed to present to the staff or something. And I said, well, with all due respect, my parents are in their mid-50s at the time. They have nobody to help them unload an entire semi-truck worth of stuff. So I'm going to go help them. And if that means the cost of my job, then so be it. And she said, it's going to mean the cost of your job. I'm like, okay. So I quit my job to go help my parents move, but also to interview for the job. And the guys at DDH knew that I was going to come interview, but they didn't invite me. It was just me calling them and saying, hey, guys, I'm coming on Friday. Can I meet you? And I left really early so I'd get there Friday afternoon and meet with them. can I just stop by and meet you? And they said, yeah, absolutely. Why not? So I did. And I met Dan Schmidt, who's the editor-in-chief of Deer and Deer Hunting. And he and I started talking. He was already kind of, just really impressed with the fact that I got there, obviously, that I was willing to make that trip. But then where the stars really aligned is I mentioned my Wisconsin roots, because I was born in Wisconsin and my dad came from Wisconsin. And I mentioned that, and he's like, well, really, where did your dad grow up? And I said, well, Hartford, Wisconsin, the little town of Erin. And his jaw dropped. He's like, really? He's like, I went to Hartford High School. So it turns out, now they weren't in the same age range, but he and my dad went to the exact same high school. Dan Schmidt went to high school with my aunt. They were in the same, within a 4-year gap. And his family to this day still knows my dad's side of the family. So they're just friends. So this guy from Omaha that they were interviewing turns out to have this exact same roots as the editor-in-chief of Deer and Deer Hunting magazine. So pretty much at that point, it was pretty solid. I got the job, but they didn't verbalize it. They said instead, well, technically we need you to meet with our current executive producer, Terry Boder, who lives in Minneapolis. Can you go meet him tomorrow? I'm like, why not?
How far is that?
The very next,
how far is that?
From there, about 3.5.
Okay.
But he met me, I think he met me in Eau Claire. So it was a little less. It was maybe 2.5, not crazy less.
Okay.
But I met him for a burger a couple weeks later, or the next day, not a couple weeks later. A couple weeks later, I finally got the phone call. I was sweating at this point because I had no job. I was staying with my buddy. And I finally got the phone call.
Wisconsin.
No, actually, because after the interview process, I didn't really have a place to live. My parents weren't actually moving that weekend. I lied to my boss. So I went back to Omaha, and at that point, I'd given up everything. I gave up my apartment that I had in the interim, and I was living with my best friend who used to be my Blockbuster boss, who ended up being my best man at my wedding, so on and so forth. I finally got the job, or got the call, and within a day I was out there in Wisconsin. I had everything ready to go. So, I mean, at that point in my life, I didn't have a couch. I'd have nothing, right? I had my dog. I had my personal items. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's about it. So that's ultimately how I got the job at DDH. And deer hunting has been very good to me. I worked there for just about 9 years at this point, and I've put my absolutely everything into it. And DDH has gone, if anybody is familiar with the industry, DDH has gone through some roller coaster rides. It's gone through different ownership. So the corporation that owned it when I got on board filed for bankruptcy, and which of course happened to me because my boss at the time was telling me that we're making money hand over foot. Go ahead, put down some roots, buy a house. It'll be great. A month later, hiring freeze, moving to a different city with the office, and I now have to commute, and I'm like, crap.
I got an interesting sidebar question here. Maybe it's not a sidebar.
Yeah.
Maybe the listeners are curious as well. The house on the bay, did your parents buy it?
They did. They bought that house.
They still live in it today?
No, because me and Sarah moved to a different location, and then we had Sadie.
Okay.
And my mother was not okay being an hour away from a grandbaby.
Yep.
So they sold that house. They made a pretty penny on it.
I was going to say, still cool. They did buy that house.
Yeah, they bought that house. My dad has always been a DIY fixer-upper guy. So he fixed it up. He built a garage. He really maximized the value of that home. And then they ended up buying 15 acres and a house the same size, about 2,500 square feet, 15 minutes from where we live now. And he paid cash, $250,000 cash.
Amen. That's awesome.
Which was a crazy deal. Just a couple years ago.
Well, just to think back to their own story, and your parents are still together today.
Yep, and I give them a heck of a lot of credit for that because there were times, and maybe they don't want me sharing this, but there were times growing up where they would be yelling nonstop at each other and where they would leave the house and they'd say, I'm not coming back. But they always came back. And so that's why, for me, that's why whenever me and my wife get into it a little bit, and I tell her, like, I've been in relationships that fight. We don't fight. She thinks we do because she hasn't been in a lot of relationships. We have disagreements, but I always go back to my parents and their relationship. It's like, I've seen fights.
Yeah.
What we do is not fight. There's nothing that we can't get through if my parents got through all of that. I mean, just imagine building up essentially an empire for yourself and for your family and then losing every last bit of it. How do you stay together through that?
Literally. I mean, I think of so many people that would talk about that type of chapter in their life, but they would have a different outcome, different outcome through all that adversity and just all that challenge. So your parents are in Wisconsin. You are in Wisconsin. Yep. You're now in the same towns together, I'm understanding.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah.
Sister towns, yeah.
All sort of, and as I throw in my version here of how David first kind of gave me the fast track, was all because David bought a $150 car and went to Omaha, Council Bluffs.
Yeah, man.
Then he drugged the family back.
That's right. I mean, they would not have come here if it wasn't for me, and if it wasn't for breaking up with my ex, and it wasn't for the Bill O'Reilly tickets. Like, that's why, you and I think we can relate on the fact that, a lot of people say, oh, you're willing to bet on yourself. Like, I've never really thought about it that way. I've always thought about it as, this is just the next move that I want to make, and I'm not even going to think about it. I'm just going to make it. And it is never in my life let me down. Even though there have been times where I've had to throw a car battery in my backpack and trudge through the snow 3 miles. And I know that's a story our parents always told us. Oh, we had to walk to school 3 miles in a snowstorm.
Uphill both ways.
Exactly. I actually did it with a car battery in a backpack 3 miles. It wasn't just school, but I actually did that, and I get to tell my kids that I actually did that. So it's never not worked out for me, one way or another. And that's not because, what's presented itself to me wasn't hard and wasn't a scenario where most people wouldn't have made it work. It's because I refused to take no. Yep. I refuse it, period. So that's,
there's a word here, grit. That's, if you listen to the Josh Duncan episode, Josh talked about grit, and there's a lot of grit that encompassed those chapters that you just talked about that leads you to today. A lot of grit.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so I ended up here. I ended up at deer hunting. My life completely changed for the better. I, at that point, was like, you know what? I'm ready for the bachelor life. I got this little farm with 3 acres of land. My hunting buddies next door have all the surrounding land, and we're all copacetic. We're all having fun together, hunting more than we own. And it's just, it was great. I could not have set up a better single man life for myself until my wife came.
And wrecked it all and totally wrecked it. No. So
well,
go ahead.
She always views it that way. She's always like, you always talk about how great your life was. It's like, honey, it's because in my head, I spent years focusing on myself finally and being happy with myself and just learning to love the life by myself. That doesn't mean I love this life any less, this was always the dream for me, being with someone like you and having our kid. But I was fully prepared to accept a different dream in life. So that's, and the way Sarah came into the world, in my world, is just as, kismet, I guess.
Well, I mean, do you want to go there? Because my questions that I would go to, but this might be a good time to talk about Sarah, is I would go to kind of who is DDH, because I think a lot of the listeners would have no clue the size of the ripple effect or the size of the impact of deer and deer hunting in the space. But is this a good time to talk about Sarah?
We got time, right? So briefly, I'll talk about Sarah, and then I'll go into DDH because DDH. Yeah, because deer and deer hunting applies to Sarah too, because as you know, she works there too. So the little house, 3 acres that I bought in Tigerton, Wisconsin. Great spot to hunt, but you got to own land. Obviously, no one lets you hunt for free.
Cut that part out, everybody. Cut that
out. My neighbors were Valley guys from the Appleton area, and they just owned a little hunting shack right on the property line. And I would spend for the first couple of years living there, I'd spend, nights over at their place drinking and having fun and really getting to know them. John and Rick were their names. And then one day after the corporation that owned Deer and Deer Hunting went down, it was then purchased by some longtime employees, Brad Rux, Steve Bartella, who was a freelancer, and then Dan Schmidt is also part owner. And we ended up letting go of quite a bit of staff. That's how I ultimately ended up at the top of the food chain there, is because every other videographer that worked for us either already quit or they worked somewhere else, and management just decided they didn't want to keep them. They wanted to keep David and give David the reins. So long story short, we had another position open, a digital web editor style position, hybrid social media stuff. And I was fixing a lawnmower with Rick Roundy, my neighbor. And he recommended at the time that we should suggest or look at Sarah, John's daughter, his buddy. And because she had just got let go from her job in Green Bay. And, you know, I said, why not send her my resume, or send her resume to me.
Yep.
Send her my resume. Send her my dating
that
resume.
Came later.
That's what ended up happening. It did. Send her resume to me, and I will make sure she gets a fair shot. And, you know, Dan sometimes thinks that I kind of pulled the lever a little bit for her, tipped the scale a little bit for her, which I kind of did. But ultimately, because here's what happened. I told her what impresses Dan, which is don't wait to be invited for an interview. Just
let me tell you how this went for me, and then just use that.
And she did it, and it did work. But ultimately what impressed him was, when she was in the office, he had her look at the website and he said, what's wrong with it? And she's more of a keyword search engine type of professional. And she just went through and said, well, that's a bad headline. That's not optimized, and this blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, you're hired. Done. I need that, you know? So she got the job. And then our relationship, in a really quick nutshell, within 6 weeks we were dating. Within 6 months we were engaged. Within a year and a half we were married. Within 2 years we had our first baby. So that is me and Sarah in a nutshell. Let's get to DDH. I have more questions. I like how you said we were fixing a lawnmower, Sarah. I want you to know that was a pivotal time in his life. Any man listening, when you're fixing a lawnmower is when you have the most clarity. Like, it's not even a question. So God was going to do something in your life. You're fixing a mower. I want to see if I can put this together. You're fixing a mower with the neighbors, John and Rick, who are the property, your friends that you become friends with. Sarah is John's daughter? Yes.
Okay. So now your father-in-law, is he still your friend?
We are closer than ever, thank God. There was definitely some hesitation up front, because he, for about 3 years, heard all my bachelor stories, looked out the window, saw me.
We've had beers together.
He's caught me on some trail cameras before. She's not doing anything bad, but just walking through the woods with
not this guy for my daughter.
that is the sentiment he relayed to her. He said, David's not looking for anything serious. I'm not sure this is a good thing. And like children do, she defied her father. And I just was like, hey, John, don't forget, you told me a lot of stories over those years too, okay? So
we are equally implicated here in deer camp, my man. So
that's right. But deer camp's like Vegas. You don't share. So
yep, that's awesome. That is hilarious. So hilarious is a bad word. This is actually really cool because from a friendship, becomes a kinship and a wifeship for you, and a family ship. Legacy ship of that. I mean, that really is cool.
Because my former boss told me to go put down roots and buy a house near the office space, which ended up not being the office space for long.
Right. See, so I will insert David, but God, I will insert that in all of this. It is just amazing how our paths and our paths in life get orchestrated, and we think it's us. I just don't believe it usually is. I believe God gives us the free will to make decisions, but that all those decisions have equal, neat trajectory that he ordains. That's awesome. So Sarah works for you, or with you, for you?
With me. She's Dan's employee.
Okay.
She works more on the editorial side of things, whereas, again, I deal with all the digital video stuff. So now we can talk about DDH. Is that cool?
Well, I just want to cover for everybody else that David, what he and I do share in similarities here is it sounds like you are a permanent HR issue for DDH because you're dating and now sleeping with an employee, married, but it's
right. But at the same time, when we get into my duties at DDH, you'll find out that I am the HR department most of the time, so we're good.
Well, at my house flip company, my wife worked there and was our finance person, and everyone was like, technically,
naughty,
she
Tyler.
is HR and you are a problem, and we are reporting you to HR. And it was like, do it.
Yeah.
I think she's hot. So, it was
worth it.
Yeah, running joke. Like, please write me up. Yeah. Can I go to her office? And I will make out with her. So,
I haven't done that. She doesn't have an office, just a cubicle. So.
Well, David, there's always new challenges in life. So I'm just leaving you with that. I'm just depositing that. It's something you could try. Not sure what the book says about it. Anyways, all right. So DDH, I mean, like if you're a listener and you don't, for me, David, I'm setting the scene of what I think most listeners would agree is DDH in my head was way prior to digital media and social media and YouTube and all these different platforms. We got something in the mail that we eagerly anticipated coming. We got something in the mail. And for me, David, this is my own only stealing of your thunder during this talk track. Deer and deer hunting for me is literally when I was a little boy, probably 8 to 12 years old. I had a pastor at my church that was also a hunter. And once I learned he was a hunter, I was like, I had 600 million questions. I mean, I was a hunter with my grandpa, but like small game, we would do deer drives, but things that was just like, I don't really understand deer hunting. Like we just do it, but I don't really understand deer or anything, don't know anything about them. But he would give me magazines. This pastor would give me these magazines and they would say deer and deer hunting. And as a little boy, like I'm for sure I read everything 10 times, and he would give me, like another one at church in a week. And these were all these older episodes or, older releases, whatever you would call them. I mean, I couldn't get enough of them. They were literally, that was instrumental in the lighting of a fire in a young boy's brain, lighting of a fire of like, there is something more to this. So it's really cool to me. It's really fulfilling to me to get to talk about with you what I will argue shaped a lot of our outdoor careers as young men and women that listen to this was this brand that we're about to talk about. I don't know if everybody's already put this together in your head, but deer and deer hunting is kind of deer and deer hunting. Like it's the foundation of it. I mean, who thought to publicate something that was about animals in the hunting space until DDH? So anyways, Who is deer and deer hunting? Maybe if you can do the little historical archives up to like, what is it today?
I will try to do it justice. Dan Schmidt, if you're listening, I'm sorry if I make a small mistake, but I think I've got this down pretty well. Deer and deer hunting originally started off, I want to say 1972. That might be the area where I get it wrong. As the Stump Sitters Study Group. What that is, it's a bunch of deer hunters who thought, you know what, why don't we start studying these whitetails and figure out how to better hunt them?
I was a stump sitter, so I already love that. Yeah. I was literally a stump sitter on a deer drive.
I mean, and that's what I mean. The historical images and stuff that we have in the office is just, it's so cool. Even if you didn't grow up a deer hunter, to see that sort of stuff is just phenomenally incredible. But so they started a newsletter, right? So they wanted people to sign up for the newsletter, put it out. It was a cool old print newsletter. And they started all these different studies. They would, they're the first guys that put out trip lines and cameras with timers on them. So they actually, their studies inspired quite a bit of the industry. They inspired the invention of the trail camera. They inspired modern day camo patterns, putting tree bark on camo on clothing. And so where deer hunting evolved, so that it was again from 1972 to 1977, just a newsletter with a bunch of guys doing a bunch of studies. It evolved into a magazine via a recommendation of one of the subscribers of the newsletter. He's like, you guys need to just put out a full publication here. And they're like, okay. And they called it Deer and Deer Hunting. Why? Because excuse me, the magazine is about deer from a biological standpoint, from, physiological, all of that. But it's also about deer hunting. That was one of the things when I first got on. I was like, why is this called deer and deer hunting? That just sounds weird. Why are they copying the deer twice? Well, it makes sense if you think about it. It's about deer and deer hunting. Yep. And so 1977 is when Deer and Deer Hunting magazine launched, and it was the first ever whitetail focused publication. And ever since then, it has grown and evolved into not just a magazine, but an entire outdoor division of that former corporation, and which includes titles such as the Trapper magazine, Turkey and Turkey Hunting magazine. We've had other magazines that have kind of come and gone. But so now we are privately owned. It went from being a privately owned magazine to a corporately owned magazine to another corporate buying it back to privately owned. So it's gone full circle. And now it is Deer and Deer Hunting, multiple other print titles. It is multiple websites. It is 4 broadcast television shows, multiple online web series with over 1.4 million social reach at this point, following across the board, across platforms. And it's bigger and better than ever, really, when it comes to brand presence and all of that. But it is a brand that has got an incredibly rich history that most of this industry, maybe it would have still become what it is. Trail cameras probably would have still came about. Somebody would have done it eventually, but DDH was the first. And it's really cool to get to work for a brand like that and represent it as much as I do, which is quite a bit. So
yeah, I don't even think some of those are bold statements. Like when you look back at if Deer and Deer Hunting is the forefront of the study of the animal, and it's the forefront of the advancement of the sport of hunting and how to get better. At that point, what we have access to now, what I would say now that is both an advantage and a disadvantage to us as hunters today is like we have the most information we've ever had. We have so much information and we have so much technology that we can lean on. We have so much of that. And back then you had so little. You had like none. Right. So Deer and Deer Hunting rolls out and creates the foundation for like, let's actually be educators. Let's be proactive, not just reactive. Let's think bigger. And I don't think it's talk speak at all for Deer and Deer Hunting to say we did author the thought process of a trail camera, taking pictures. Right. We did author the thought process of, and I would even, you could go out on all these different limbs of, I'm sure there were studies of using scents and what's it like to rattle and how do deer respond to that? And where does this idea come from? And what is a tree stand? And now we've got a climber. And you can go down all these roads that hunting has advanced from, but the ability to gain information as a hunter only for a very long time, I would say, came from one medium. It only came from one medium, which was a publication. Like this is how you got information to the hollow that you lived in, your neck of the woods. Right. And it 100% changed my life, truly, as a young man. It changed my life to read these articles and think about things and like hear someone write about, paying attention to a wind direction. It was like, what is this concept? What are you talking about? And like now today, you just scroll on your phone. It's just a reel and you can just pass it and not even like it. And it's cool. None of that existed before. Like Deer and Deer Hunting was the ethos, the eco start of this, the nucleus of information era, information era. I think they pioneered. So I think saying there's a rich history is putting it lightly.
Yeah, and what I really appreciate about the brand and what I've been able to help contribute to is that we've taken that into the digital age, right? We've led the forefront. So again, I'm not naming any competitors here, okay? But if you look at our competitors in the same spaces, the same magazine spaces and whatnot, just go look at our following. Look at theirs. And this is credit to Dan Schmidt. Dan Schmidt in the early 2000s saw this thing called Facebook, right? And he would be on it all the time, or whenever it came out. I don't really remember, but whenever it came out, Dan Schmidt was on it all the time. And our publisher at the time, Brad Rux, who is now our owner, he would yell at Dan. He would tell him, "Get off your phone. There's no future there."
Yep.
Dan Schmidt ended up building a massive following for our brand before anybody else. And now if you try to, it is so incredibly difficult to ground up, build a following like that, right? Where I think we're at like 900. You're doing all right.
I would agree with that.
Your stuff.
It's very hard to create a following. It's because of like we just said, it's all the access everybody has. Everybody has access to the same stuff.
I think you've been doing pretty good lately, though. I've seen some good growth in the last few months.
It's just drones and deer corn, you know. I mean, it's just mostly drones and deer corn. But hey, whatever.
Right. So I got to give a lot of credit, and Dan Schmidt deserves a lot of credit for that because he really put the brand at the forefront of the digital age in the hunting space as well. And that's what I really strive to keep going there because deer hunting it's not the big rack, big buck brand, right? We represent that absolutely. We believe in growing big deer and if you can, and encouraging that. But at the same time, what I love about this brand is Dan Schmidt is like a Roger Ragland type, right? He will shoot anything. He will. And he will be proud of it. And he will be just as giddy little schoolgirl shaking like crazy no matter what he takes. So while at the same time, we're pretty well balanced. Brad Rux is more of a grow big deer and shoot big deer only. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. And that's what our brand strives to do is to be all inclusive, not to, like we're not like DI or anything, but to be all inclusive of every type of hunter that's out there and just shut down the ridiculous inner bickering that this industry has. As much as we can. So
for sure. That's a topic of its own that I have never felt is more worth dealing with in the hunting industry than this divide that the internal hunting industry has. And
right.
Like, look, you mentioned we've done some following growth here lately. It's because we've had these viral reels about controversial topics. Well, lots of times as a podcast host, you don't get the ability to share your opinion of the controversial topic and where, my opinion is or whatever. But yeah, we are more divided than ever in the hunting industry. And we are, kind of working against, I'll never forget Mike Rex saying this. Mike is the president of the Ohio Wildlife Council. And, he said, you've got insurance lobbyists that are very united, and they are very united against what they want against hunters. And then you have a hunting community that's very divided, and you're fighting against each other, and you will not win a war with a divided campus trying to fight a united campus of insurance lobbyists and people that hate deer. So end of rant there. This is the question that I have now, David, is something that I have told David since I met him that I find very interesting because I think it's super uncommon is in our space, and our space, I will say, as I'll frame as David is a content creator for the most part. This is like, mildly putting what he does, but David's spending a lot of time creating content inside of the outdoor industry and speaking to avatars that live inside the outdoor industry because of his expertise and background as a content creator. So what that gives you, the recipe that I find interesting is, David, you admitted when we first met that you didn't come from hunting. You came from content creation, and you got a job in hunting through content creation. And now, what has hunting and what has DDH done for you? That would be what I think we would all say is generally backwards. Most people get into content creation and hunting because they're big hunters and they love the space and they're just ate up with hunting. So then they get a camera, and you were the other way. So kind of what has the hunting world, what has it deposited on you if things come to mind?
Sure. I mean, my first introduction to the hunting world, obviously is through the job, but my first personal introduction was, I took the job. I decided, this first season, I'm going to just kind of observe and learn how to hunt. But then a fellow employee encouraged me, just go out there, just try it, So I did. And I shot my very first buck, who was the biggest buck of the group of bucks in front of me. So I thought I made, a great decision. And no matter what, I was super excited. But I called the neighbor because it ran onto the neighbor's land. And I said, hey, I'm not even going to say his name, and I'll tell you why later. But hey, my buck ran onto your property. Can I go track it? And the first words out of his mouth, how big was it? You know, and my heart sunk a little bit.
And I'm assuming this was not John, your now father-in-law.
No.
Just me.
No, John would have been crazy happy for me no matter what. But this guy was, it depends on how big it is.
Yeah.
Was it a mature deer or not? And my heart sunk. I lied to him. I said, it was a giant. He said, okay, go ahead. And I found it, and it wasn't. It was maybe 100-inch deer, right?
Yeah, but
that's
it was
subjective.
the biggest one. Like, it could have been a giant to you. You know.
Well, not only that. Look, it's my first deer, period. Like, who cares if it's a giant or not at that point, right? So that kind of is a great metaphor for my biggest problem with this industry. Again, it's not that there are different ways of hunting and different beliefs and whatnot. It's that we are more than willing to demonize somebody with a different set of beliefs within our industry when our industry is so well attacked from the outside. So, but to kind of dive a little bit deeper into answering your question, like deer hunting, I've obviously adopted it. I do love doing it. I love being outdoors, and that's the biggest thing for me. Like, whether I get a deer or not is really, not an issue. It's more so therapy, being out there and having time to think and just experiencing nature. And that's something that now I get to share with my father-in-law, and now I get to share with my wife. She killed her first buck a year ago. And, it's really brought a lot to my life in terms of richness, because during that whole phase of transitioning from high school all the way to this position, like I used to run track and field in high school, and that would be my thing. Like I would just run in the middle of the night, even as a 16-year-old, I would just run the high school track over and over and over and over and over again. And that was my therapy. And I hadn't had that level of therapy anywhere else in the interim, in my college years and through the breakup and all of that. So that being out in the tree stand ended up becoming that for me. And that's why I do love it. But I love it for a different reason than guys like you. You guys grew up with those shared experiences with your dads or your uncles or your grandpas or whatever. I learned it at 27, and I decided what it was going to be for me and what I wanted to be for my children. If I have children, I didn't mean to say that plural. I only have one, but we're working on it. And so, I don't know. I mean, deer hunting is incredibly meaningful to me, but it's hard for me to kind of explain, other than what I just did, just how different it might be for somebody like you.
I actually love that, because it just shows the ocean of divide that God can speak to someone in the woods over. It just shows that, because you can't put words to yours. I can't put words to mine. Any of my best friends, they can't put words to their joy in the outdoors. And David and I would both agree and resonate and say that I don't even believe you need to go on a journey to go try to shoot a whitetail deer with a bow. If you like to camp, you're getting into the same outdoors that we're speaking of. You're finding the same release. You're working through the same process. But David, I think it's beautiful because it proves my point. You can't articulate what pure. It's romantic. No, it's just, you can't articulate how it makes you feel. Neither can I, to the degree that it makes me feel. I can't.
Right.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean by that. It is hard to put words to something that has been a place that, to me, for me as a busy entrepreneur, being in the outdoors is the only, and the word I always love to use is pure. It's the only pure space that I know of that I refuse to allow the industry, and me being in this industry professionally now, I refuse to allow the industry to taint that purity of the outdoors for me. So I genuinely appreciate hearing you say that.
So now what I can address to the other aspect of your question, though, what I can articulate is, yes, I grew up a storyteller, not a deer hunter. So when it comes to the industry, that's backwards, right? Most guys in the industry love hunting, and they pick up a camera and just teach themselves I want to say most the basics. Some really take advantage and become experts at it. But where does that put me then in the industry? I get frustrated a good amount, not at anyone in particular, but what I see in the industry because of that formula is that so many guys, and this is going to have so many guys hate me now, so many guys and girls will put their love of hunting before the job.
Yeah.
Right? They will put their love of hunting, they will be out there self-filming, and they'll decide, you know what? Screw the camera. I got the shot. Boom. I don't do that. You know, I just don't do that. And it frustrates me from a bottom line standpoint, because especially if you're in the job of content creating, you cannot hurt yourself any more than doing that.
Yep.
You know, and it happens all the time. So it's a little bit different when I hire. I've hired 5 people now in this industry, and only one of them hunted before they got the job. And that person lasted about 2 months. Because it was all ego. It was all, kind of laziness, to be honest. And I don't have a tolerance for that. So I'm very big on hiring storytellers before I hire hunters. Hunting, you can teach people to do. You can teach somebody to use a camera, but I went to 4 years of school for that. You know, I expect the same from you if this is what you want to do. So, yeah, I mean, we did on the Deer Talk Now podcast of DDH, we did a podcast with Will Primos, and he had the opposite idea. And all I could think in my head is like, oh gosh, I'd love to get into him right now. I wish I was the host right now, because he has the opposite. And it's Will Primos, so you have to take him seriously. He obviously.
I remember this podcast actually, or maybe he's even said it on. Well, I think he either this one or he has said it on others. If I'm thinking the same talk track, he always wanted to make hunters videographers.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
And he's done a really good job at it.
I was going to say, I get the foundational premise of what he's saying is true, that hunters know when to move, when not to move. They know when to be savvy. They get that. I get. I do.
Right.
But I also understand what you're saying, that the thing that they're going to lack is the ability to produce. You've got to see from the lens of that camera, the hunt, not the lens of your eyes. We don't see that. We only see what you show us.
Yeah. You know, apart from what the deer does or does not do, you need to be able to visualize the story in your head as it's happening, how you're going to put it together. You have to be a creative storyteller. And I don't care if it's deer hunting or cooking or whatever the industry is that you're doing. You need to have that gift of storytelling to really resonate with these audiences, because these audiences, they're not that forgiving. You know, you go, what I do to find out what kind of story I need to tell, I go sit at the local bar in Tigerton as the hunting channel is on, you know, Pursuit Channel or whatever, and I listen to them talk about it. And the same thing over and over and over again. Oh man, all this is a bunch of beautiful slow motion shots. There's no story here. All this is a big commercial for the outfitter. All this is a big commercial for that sponsor and that sponsor, which sponsorships, look, I work in advertising. Without sponsorships, there is no content. But I'm a defender of that.
I'm with you.
But there is a way. There is a storytelling way of being able to provide the sponsorships what they want. And at the end of the day, if you tell a great story, like not Matt Ranella, Matt Ranella is kind of against it. Steve Ranella, his brother. If you tell a great story like Steve Ranella, you don't have to sit there and say, buy this product now. You don't have to. Right.
And so I have always preached that so much. I don't, if I was a brand in the outdoor industry and it was like, and I've seen these, I don't think we'd have killed this deer without this true close sight that we had. And it's like, dude, that never resonates with anyone. And if I'm True Glow, whomever, insert whoever, I don't want that either, because I don't agree with that either. I just want you to show a hunt that has a good, clear view that we were a part of it, and then tell the story. That's it. That's all they should ever need.
100%. So that's where I think, I'm not the only one in the industry with that opinion, obviously, but I think I'm an anomaly. You're a minority, small for sure. Group. Yeah. I'm in a small minority group of producers in the outdoors industry who did not come from the outdoors industry, and we see things differently. And I think it would behoove companies to hire more people like that, because you need that perspective. And I'm not looking for a job, so don't hire me. But Yeah. So, I mean, I hope that answers your question, but it's very unique and different for me. And I don't know, I don't put up with a whole lot of, anything else.
Well,
I lost my train of thought. So.
Well, it would be almost like plagiarism or, there's other words, BS, but the perspective that I think you can provide, having come into the space backwardsly, if that's a word, is...
It's not, but good.
I got a buddy that always would say irregardless. I'm like, that's not... I mean, it means the same thing, but anyways.
I always tell my wife I'm going to de-thaw some meat.
Yeah.
Which is like...
I don't know. I wouldn't do it.
I think you're just going to thaw it.
But your perspective is valid because you can come into the hunting industry with an untainted lens. You have an unadulterated view of how this should look from a content creator perspective, not from I'm a hunter and I want to see the bow getting pulled back with a field point on it, pretending that you're at full draw on the animal. And that's an amazing view, even right in the scene of this hunt that happens so fast, but somehow you have time to turn the camera over to your bow getting pulled back.
Right.
Like you can call that out pretty quick. And I think it's valid. So
thanks.
The thing that I told David before we get on here, obviously for me and this podcast, we're always about, and if you can't tell, I love the story, the journey, the try, fail, adjust. I really do love that inside of the space of the outdoors and land and any kind of person that's in the land space at all. So to kind of land the plane with you, David, as a now creator and a now having been in the industry, how long has it been since you came on at DDH? We didn't ask that.
Just shy of 9 years.
Okay.
So I came in 27. Yeah.
You did 9 years. That rings. So just shy of a decade here. Let's call it a decade of being in the outdoor industry. Mm-hmm. Surely there are times that come to mind when you think of what I'm passionate about here at the Legacy Through Land podcast is, when is that vision for you that you've probably gotten to see in all these experiences you've had? When is that vision or that person or that whatever that comes to mind when you think of creating a legacy through land? What comes to mind for you? Those are some of the stories I love to hear. I'm sure you've got some interesting perspectives.
My perspective of that, because honest to God, in the 9 years, I hadn't put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a landowner.
Well,
right?
and it's not a thought people would directly have, honestly. To me, it's an experience someone would have when I would say, hey, what comes to mind when you think of that? Wow, this is amazing. And how was this created? And it usually starts with dirt.
Yeah. So my answer to that the realization of that really came from recent events. And I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to do my best not to cry. Just putting that out there. And I mean it.
Well, I mean, I cried last week, so let's just keep it going. Let's just start a trend here. I love a good cry.
Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not going to tell you everything because I don't want to hash out details because they don't need to be hashed out too much. So we're going to go back to John and Rick, right? These were my first deer camp, John and Rick. My father-in-law and his college buddy / my neighbor. And they together, John is a phenomenal public land hunter. Like, he shot some giants on public land, just putting in that grit that you need to put in to do that. And his dream, I think to this day still, is to shoot a 200-inch deer. And I think John and Rick really believed going up to the Tigerton area, pouring their money into all of that land that they have, which now it's about 200 consecutive plus 80 on another side of the town. They really hoped that they would see that caliber of buck there. But of course, Tigerton's not what it once was. There's a lot more smaller parcels and whatnot. And I've kind of seen over the years of knowing them, their mindsets change a little bit from what we're doing here is for our own desires of shooting a giant deer to what we're doing here, to use your terminology, is to build a legacy for our children.
Yeah.
And where things get really sad for me and my family is that, hold on.
Go there.
About a month and a half ago, the neighbor that I will not name, he gunned Rick down, and he tried to kill my father-in-law in the deer cabin that we all shared together. And hold on. Try not to rehash it too much. Obviously, it's raw, you know. And again, I don't want to tell the story because it's not necessarily my story to tell, and I don't want to give it more publicity than it deserves. But what I've seen come from it, my father-in-law now being a survivor of that, the number one thing he wanted to do afterwards was continue deer camp. I'm not gonna lie, when I first heard about it, I talked to you that same morning. I was driving back from Wyoming. And you know, at that point I was in shock. That's why I think I sounded normal to you. The rest of that day, I was not normal. The rest of that day I was mortified, horrified, you name it. And I immediately thought there's no way we can ever go up to that deer camp again. We can't do it after knowing what happened. And my father-in-law had the complete opposite, and he still does. He has the complete opposite decision in his head. He's saying, we always told ourselves, me and Rick, when we'd sit there at night and we'd watch TV and we'd have our whiskeys, we would always talk about how we're not doing this for us anymore. We're doing it for our boys and our daughter, Sarah, and Rick's daughter, Megan, if she so chooses, but I don't think she hunts. She's a veterinarian, so. And that, you know, like that's really shaped what I feel too, in terms of that legacy and what that land really means, what that dirt means.
Yep.
You know, we come from it, we go back to it. Unfortunately, Rick went back to it too soon. But what he left behind is an absolute legacy that he loved and that he wants his boys to come back to. They, I think, are going to have a hard time coming back to it. But what I promised John, and I actually, you know, this played a big role in a big decision that I had to make recently in turning down a job that came to me, which would have forced me to move. I promised John that no matter what, I will be there to help him put in those food plots, because his son lives in North Carolina. Rick's boys, again, I don't blame them if they never want to go up there again. But I would love it if they did.
Yeah.
And I just told John, I'm going to be there for you. No matter what, I'm going to help you put in the food plots. We're going to put up the mock scrapes. We're going to put up the cameras. I'm going to help be that person for you. And I genuinely would love that. I would love to spend that time with my father-in-law and bring, you know, my daughter up there. And if I have another kid, bring them up there and bring my wife up there. So, you know, something like that humbles the hell out of you and really makes you realize just, you know, not just how valuable dirt is, but how valuable the people around you are, and how meaningful it is that you get to share that dirt, that deer camp with somebody, and it makes everything else not matter, period. So.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you know, most of people's euphoric moment comes from an amazingly bright chapter, and yours comes from an amazingly dark chapter. And
yeah,
the same euphoric moment can be said that if that was just a property for hunting, or that was just a property that's only value was recreational use, or only value was the time we had recreationally on that land, the outcome of this tragedy probably would quickly just be put a sign at the entrance and we're done with that chapter. But
right.
That's not the value of the land. The recreation and the hunting is a fringe benefit of the, you know, and when I say value, let's be clear here, not the financial value. It's the value we're measuring from the legacy lifetime standpoint. And I'm with you. I understand how hard that could be for Rick's boys. I understand that totally. I have a hope and a peace about it that God will orchestrate a way for them to find healing there. I think we obviously all can assume that the guy's in jail forever. So
let's hope.
Yeah. So there's not going to be any fear of anything happening ever, but the best way to honor Rick is to carry that on. I mean, that's the best way. I don't know this guy, but I know if he has the same ethos as me, to stop everything for the sake of his death is not what he would want. That's not it.
Right. And that's why John made the decision he made, and I'm all for it. I'm with him. So
it's amazing to see. I'll never forget, I had one of my good friends, Bobby Warner, on the podcast early, and Bobby's a really successful attorney, and he lives in Crested Butte, Colorado, and he does all this amazing stuff and lives a lifestyle that I think very few will accomplish. And what I've loved about Bobby's story and what he was able to say on that podcast was, there's a lot he could give his family. There's a lot he could give his kids. There's a lot of just money or this or that he could give. And so could we all if we work hard and keep our noses to the ground. But the thing that he made the argument of is it's a piece of paper you're going to give them if it's some trust fund or it's some kind of a stock market cashing out. I've given them so much more on this land. I've given them so many more memories. I've given them so many more things that you can't measure. It's not just an appreciating asset. It's not just something that was boring and stable. I have given them lifetime memories on these, and he's got a farm that he always talks about he would never sell. And I don't know that his kids would ever sell because it's one of those chapter after chapter after chapter, like you guys are creating there on Rick and John's place. It's immeasurable, those fringe benefits that land gives. And that's, for Bobby to make that argument as an incredibly successful attorney, like incredibly successful and, living at the dream lifestyle and all those things that we could all joke and yearn for as the accolades we want, that'll make us think we've arrived. And what does he tell you? Go buy land. He literally says I wish I'd have done more with just buying land. I just wish I'd have bought more because there's more meaning on it than I could ever recreate by just saving money in a stock or in a trust or in a whatever cool other thing. And I'm not dismissing stocks, not dismissing other avenues of making money, make money. I just am dismissing that they can be measured the same. I just don't think they can. So I don't know. I knew from your perspective, David, with your job, you've been able to, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been able to go on some incredible hunts. You've been able to see with your own eyes some of what this itch for hunting animals can create in someone. You've been able to see that, and to be able to go back to my home roots are what makes me see a legacy through land with John and Rick's story. That's awesome. I mean, that's awesome that's what comes to mind, because I'm sure you could say, well, maybe this Alaskan hunt or, maybe this trip or maybe this but there's a family aspect to that one,
Yeah. No, I mean, the other stuff is cool. The adventures are cool, but none of it matters. Not a single bit of it. When it comes down to it, if I only had 3 acres, I'm going to make the most of those 3 acres.
Because they're yours.
And I did, by the way, that guy right there, 3 acres.
Let's go. I was getting ready to say, are you going to, we're going to talk about this buck or not? Is that AI? AI is amazing these days. That's not AI?
No, that's real. That's my big 8 on my 3 acres of land, which I didn't tell Rick or John about. Until he was dead, of course.
I was like, well, I think they know now. So that's,
and a great side note, Rick and I didn't always get along when it came to our deer methodology, right? Rick helped me recover that guy. And the first thing he said was, I think he's a little young. And he meant it, and in fairness, that is kind of a young deer. I think it is. I had trail cameras dating a couple years back from a neighbor on him. So he's at least 3, but I don't think he's older than that. I think he's 3-year-old deer. I
can't see, real clearly, but that time length, I think I'd have a real problem passing that deer especially on 3 acres, unless I really knew neighbors were going to pass him, or I was told not to shoot this deer. I think I have a real problem passing that.
Right. But, the point I'm getting at is that me and Rick didn't always agree. But at the end of the day, he was a part of the deer camp and he's a great human being. And it's we should forget about the little stuff. We should forget about the fact that Rick thinks it's young and it's the biggest deer in the world to me. Who cares?
Yep.
You know, like who cares?
Yep.
Like just enjoy the land together. And we did. We all did. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Amen.
But, yeah, that was a fun little side note. My wife is not very religious. I'm kind of on my own journey. The first time she ever prayed for anything was that night. She prayed that I get that buck. Got it. So there you go.
I'll throw a few requests at her if she has some superpowers as well. So
yeah.
My
got
wife.
any big ones on camera left?
I was going to say, yeah, my prayers and my wife's prayers have not worked out just yet. I don't know that bargaining with God is my strongest approach, but we're still working through that. So
yeah, I hear you.
I'll never forget. I think it was Michael Waddell talking about on a podcast. He's like, have you guys have ever made a deal with God where you're like, hey, listen, I will give you all the glory if you can bring this buck in tonight before dark. Like I'll give you all the glory. And I mean it, It's like, yeah, I've done that before as well, I think. And it hasn't worked yet. So I don't know that bargaining with God for deer. I think those cards might be up anymore, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll for sure see. Yeah. So David is, you guys may get to see David in other fashion because he's still got an Ohio tag that I have promised him he can have some help trying to fill. So he may come in and throw some content for the Legacy crew with a harvest. Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe in January.
If he's anything like me, he won't kill one, but we'll see.
Hopefully we're a little different.
It might be, I might have to have the talk with him that Rick did that, these are the young deer. These are the deer we can't shoot. These are the old ones, but
good luck.
Whatever makes you happy. Yeah. He gets amnesia a lot.
Dude, you have no idea how hard, when we were in that tree stand together, I wanted to kill that 8.
Yeah. And I think that for sure, that one was like 2 years old. We did have an encounter with a deer that I would have been ecstatic for him to shoot that I think was a mature deer, but stayed out at about 70.
50.
Yeah, 50s.
About 55, I think.
Yeah, you might have
it was also
dark.
It was
30.
Also last light.
Yeah,
so
it was dark.
It was. So, yeah, I don't do post 40 if it's that dark. So
well, and I don't remember when we hunted together. I would have to say that was very close to the end of legal shooting light anyway. So.
Right.
I've learned, especially here in late season, I check the weather app every day and then find out, all right, legal shooting light or, sunset is X and that gives me 30 minutes and that's this time. And I mentally block that off and watch my phone the whole time. So it is, it's a tough struggle. But dude, I appreciate you being on here. This has been good. I knew that your story and how that laces into the outdoor industry from not being in the outdoor industry and being inside of one of the biggest brands. I have always thought it's amazing. And I hope you hear it enough. Go you, going and betting on yourself like that. I know you keep saying you don't really look at it that way, and I'm glad you don't. And maybe that's a characteristic of, a character trait that is required to go and just have grit, but you don't know how to quit. And that's something that really resonates with me. And I'm the same way. I always tell people I'm too dumb to quit. I don't really know how to quit. So, amen to all that. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. David, I appreciate you being on here with us. Obviously, we usually end with how can people get a hold of you? How do they find you out there on the socials and the things?
Please don't. Just kidding. No, I'm always a behind the camera, behind the scenes guy. That's how I prefer it. I do have an Instagram, which is just my name, so just look it up. But at the end of the day, I'm a storyteller, and that's where I belong.
You'll see his hands everywhere. You'll see him in everything.
Look up deer and deer hunting. You will see all of my work there.
He probably did something or touched it in some fashion, so there you go.
Yeah. That's right.
Collectively, you're welcome, right? Yeah, that is his.
That's right.
His whole canvas is everything we watch. So, anyways, dude, I'll let you get back to the real world. I appreciate you being on here, and for our guests, thank you for listening this far. If this has been impactful for you, it would really help me if you would share it. And I said your mom, but honestly, anyone, your cousin, your neighbor, dad, uncle, fellow hunting friends. post an ad in a gas station that people should listen to Legacy Through Land. I mean, I think
fellow
that would be cool.
non-hunting friends.
Yeah, all non-hunting friends. I mean, it's a good time over here. We don't even, and we're really not overly good at hunting here at Legacy, apparently. So I don't know that it's really that much about hunting anyways. Just send them on over. But for real, I do appreciate you guys listening, and I will see you on next week from the Legacy Through Land podcast. See you, dude.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode. If you're finding value in this content, we'd love to hear from you. It'd mean a lot if you could share with us how this podcast is helping you on your journey and let us know of any topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Be sure to connect with us on all social platforms at Legacy Acres Land Co. and subscribe to stay updated on when new episodes drop. We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Legacy Through Land podcast, and we'll see you next week.